I found a luggage tag inside a canvas travel bag I had not opened in nearly 20 years, and my first thought was that some airline clerk had made a very old mistake. The tag had my full name, Calvin Brooks, printed in block letters. Beneath it was Tulsa, Oklahoma, with a date from October of 2007. I had never been to Tulsa in my life. I knew exactly where I had been that week. My father was dying in a nursing facility outside Kansas City, Missouri, and I was spending every evening beside his bed. I was 66 when I found the tag, 7 years into retirement from repairing commercial bakery ovens. For most of my working life, I traveled around Missouri, Kansas, and Nebraska keeping industrial ovens running. Heat teaches you patience. A machine can look dead when one small thermostat is lying to the whole system. The bag had been my service bag. Gray canvas, black handles, one patch corner. That patch was what made the tag impossible to dismiss. Years earlier, I had torn the bag on a steel doorframe in Wichita. My wife, Linda, repaired it with dark green upholstery thread because that was all she had. The airline tag was looped through the same repaired handle, and the old staple holes lined up exactly with the fabric scar. This was my bag. It had gone to Tulsa. I had not. There was one other detail. Beside my name, someone had drawn a tiny blue star in ballpoint ink. Linda used that little star on everything she packed for me. Shirt lists, hotel directions, lunch sacks. She said it helped me notice what belonged to me. Linda had been dead for 6 years. I sat on the garage floor with the bag across my knees, staring at the tag. Then I remembered something else about October of 2007. Linda had told me she spent 3 days in St. Joseph helping our daughter, Meredith, after a minor surgery. Meredith never had surgery that year. I called her that afternoon. When I asked about Tulsa, she did not say she had no idea what I meant. She said very quietly, "Dad, where'd you find the bag?" Meredith was 42 and lived in Columbia, Missouri, with her husband and 2 children. She came over the next morning. I put the tag on the kitchen table between us. She touched the blue star with one finger. "Mom did that." "I know." She looked tired before we had even started. "Did your mother go to Tulsa?" Meredith hesitated. "Yes." The answer hit harder than I expected. "Why?" I only knew part of it. That's becoming a family tradition. She ignored that. In 2007, our son Nathan was 28. He had not spoken to me for almost a year. That part one remembered clearly. Nathan worked with me for a while servicing bakery equipment. He was good with his hands, quick with customers, and terrible at taking criticism from his father. The final fight happened at a wholesale bread plant in Omaha. I accused him of leaving a gas valve unsecured during a repair. He said I had checked the valve after him and knew it was fine. I told him, in front of 2 mechanics, that he was careless. He quit on the spot. 3 months later, he moved to Tulsa. I knew that. What I had forgotten was how firmly I refused to know anything else. Linda kept telling me he was doing well. I answered, "Good." She asked if I wanted his address. I said no. At Christmas, she suggested inviting him home. I said, "He knows where we live." I thought I was leaving the door open. Nathan apparently heard something different. Meredith said Linda traveled to Tulsa to see him. Why use my bag? She didn't plan to. Linda's suitcase broke the night before she left. One was snapped off while she was pulling it from the closet. She took my old service bag instead. That explained the bag. It did not explain my name. Meredith said Linda had tied my permanent identification card to the handle years earlier. At the Kansas City airport, a curbside employee copied the name onto the temporary destination tag before Linda noticed. She could have corrected it. I said, "She didn't." "Why?" Meredith looked at the blue star. "I think she wanted the bag to look like it came from you." I sat back. That was the first moment the trip felt less like something Linda had hidden. It felt like something she had staged. Nathan still lived in Tulsa. Meredith gave me his number only after asking his permission. I had not spoken to my son in almost 18 years. He answered with, "Hi, Dad." No confusion. No surprise. Just 2 words he must have considered beforehand. Nathan, you found Mom's tag. My tag. A pause. Yeah, I disliked the correction immediately. We agreed to talk in person. I drove to Tulsa 2 days later. Nathan worked for a company that maintained commercial kitchens for schools and hospitals. I laughed when Meredith told me that. Apparently, some sons travel a long distance to become their fathers in another zip code. He met me at a diner near Broken Arrow. He was 46, gray at the temples, broader than I remembered. For several minutes, we discussed coffee and traffic. Finally, I placed a tag on the table. He looked at it and smiled. That stupid blue star. Your mother drew it. She drew one on the hotel envelope, too. What hotel? He stopped smiling. Linda had stayed at a Hampton in Near's apartment for 2 nights. On the first evening, she showed Nathan my bag. She said you packed it, he told me. I stared at him. That was a lie. Yes. What else did she say? That you knew she was there. Another lie. Nathan thought I had sent her because I was too proud to come myself. He said that interpretation mattered. Until then, he believed I wanted him gone. The bag changed that. Not because of anything inside it, because my name was hanging from a handle. You thought I sent my luggage as some kind of message? I thought Mom was making a point. She was... Nathan folded his hands. She told me you asked about me every week. I did not. I know that now. Anger rose fast. Linda had not simply visited our son. She had used my name to manufacture a reconciliation I had not agreed to. I asked what happened during those 2 days. Nathan looked toward the window. Mom convinced me to call Grandpa, my father, the same man who was dying back in Missouri, while I believed Linda was with Meredith. That connection was the first clue that the trip had been about more than Nathan and me. My father, Howard, had always been easier with Nathan than I was. He let the boy make mistakes. I corrected them before they happened. At the time, I considered that responsible. Howard called it exhausting. When Nathan quit working with me, Dad took his side publicly. You embarrassed him, he told me. He made a mistake. So did you? We barely spoke for several months after that. Then Howard's health declined. By autumn of 2007, congestive heart failure had moved him into skilled nursing. He asked about Nathan twice. Both times I said, he's in Oklahoma. That was all. Nathan told me Linda came to Tulsa because Howard had asked her to. That surprised me. Dad sent her? Not exactly. What does that mean? Grandpa told Mom he wanted to talk to me before he died. Linda believed Nathan would refuse if he thought the request came only from Howard. So she brought my bag. She told Nathan that I had finally admitted the fight was partly my fault. I had admitted no such thing. Not then. Nathan became irritated, too. You think I enjoyed finding that out later? When did you find out? After Grandpa died. That explained another old memory. During my father's final week, he seemed calmer. One evening he asked me, "You hear from your boy?" I said no. He looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You might." I thought he was confused. He was not. Nathan had called him from Tulsa. They spoke for nearly an hour. Howard apologized for something I knew nothing about. Years earlier, he had told Nathan that I would never respect him until he stopped working for me. Nathan took that seriously. It contributed to his decision to quit. My father had helped widen the gap, then regretted it. Linda's trip repaired that relationship before there was no time left. I could understand that. What I could not accept was why she used me to do it. She made me look forgiving when I wasn't. I said, Nathan met my eyes. No, Dad, she made you look reachable. The distinction did not comfort me. Not yet. When I returned home, I pulled out Linda's old wall calendars from 2007. She wrote everything down. Dentist visits, church dinners, oil changes. The 3 Tulsa days were blank. That was unusual. Linda disliked blank spaces. Then I noticed tiny blue stars beside several dates in September. One was next to Nathan's birthday. Another appeared beside the day my father entered nursing care. A third sat beside a Friday with no written appointment. The same star as a luggage tag. I called Meredith. What did the stars mean? She did not know. So I went through Linda's desk. In a folder marked household warranties, I found an envelope from a travel agency we used before internet booking became easy. Inside was a printed airline itinerary. Kansas City to Tulsa. Passenger, Linda Brooks. So she had never traveled under my identity. Only the bag had carried my name. Clipped to the itinerary was a handwritten note. Ask Calvin one more time. The date was 4 days before her trip. I remembered the conversation. Linda and I were eating dinner. She said, "Your father wants Nathan's number." I answered, "Then give it to him." She said, "Maybe Nathan needs to hear from you first." I replied, "I'm done chasing somebody who walked away." That sentence looked different 20 years later. I had remembered it as setting a boundary. Linda had heard it as a final refusal. Beneath her note was another line. If he says no, I go. My anger shifted. She had not decided in advance to deceive me. She asked. I refused without knowing what I was refusing. Still, I thought she had crossed a line. She could have told me she was going. She could have said Howard was running out of time. Instead, she used my bag and let Nathan believe I was involved. I called Nathan again. "Did your mother give you anything for me?" He hesitated. "A screwdriver." I nearly dropped the phone. "What kind?" "Black handle. Flathead. Your initials scratched into it." I knew the tool. I had been looking for it since 2007. Linda had packed it in my bag. Now the trip had left a physical piece of me behind, and I needed to know why. Nathan still had the screwdriver. He sent me a photograph. The black handle was chipped near the end. CB scratched into the plastic with a utility knife. I had carried it for 15 years. "Why did she give you that?" I asked. She said you wouldn't mind. I would have minded. I figured. Nathan sounded almost amused. Then he explained. After leaving my company, he could barely bring himself to use the tools I had taught him with. He sold most of his equipment. The Tulsa job started him in maintenance again, but he bought everything new. Linda noticed. She told him avoiding my tools was another way of letting the fight decide his life. Then she gave him my screwdriver. "That sounds like her," I said. "Yeah. And the bag." She left it in my apartment the first night. "What?" I thought Linda had carried it back immediately. Nathan said no. She deliberately left it beside his workbench. My name faced outward. The next morning, Nathan returned it to her hotel. "I told her I didn't want your stuff." What did she say? That it was just a bag. We both knew it was not. She was testing whether my name still made him angry. It did, but not enough for him to throw the bag away. Linda brought it home and put it back in the garage. She never removed the airline tag. That explained how it survived. Not hidden in a secret box. Not preserved like evidence. Simply tucked into the interior pocket when I later removed the loose tag from the handle and forgot about it. The blue star still bothered me. Nathan remembered Linda drawing it at the hotel. She said something when she did it. "What?" "I don't know. Something about making sure you saw it." "Me?" That's what I thought. Why mark a tag she planned to put back in my own garage? I called Meredith again. This time, she remembered the stars. "Mom used them after Grandpa got sick," she said. "For what?" "For things she wanted you to ask about." I did not understand. Then Meredith said, "She stopped telling you things directly because you kept saying you didn't want to talk." That hurt because it was true. The blue star had never meant ownership. It meant, look again, after my father died, I became easier to live with. That is not something I enjoy admitting. For months, I had been carrying anger at Nathan, irritation toward Dad, and fear about losing him. Once the funeral was over, grief replaced all three. Linda tried to tell me about Tulsa. I discovered that from Meredith. She started twice, Meredith said. When? the week after Grandpa's funeral, then around Christmas. I remembered both conversations differently. The first time, Linda said, "Nathan spoke to your father." I answered, "Good." Then I walked outside to rake leaves. At Christmas, she said, "Nathan might be ready to hear from you." I replied, "If he wants me, he knows my number." I had mistaken defensiveness for patience. A month later, Nathan sent me a card. I never answered. He still had it in a drawer and read me what he had written. "Dad, Grandpa and I talked. Mom helped. I'm not ready to pretend Omaha didn't happen, but I don't want that to be the last thing between us either." I remembered receiving the card. I had forgotten the words. I remembered only deciding it was not an apology. That realization was worse than Linda's deception. The trip had opened a door. I was the one who left it standing open without walking through. The first truth had made me angry because Linda used my bag and my name to suggest I was ready for reconciliation. Now the evidence was showing that she had been trying to create an opportunity, not a finished story. But I still did not understand the blue star. Why preserve it for me? Linda knew I rarely noticed luggage tags. Nathan suggested I speak with our old neighbor, Gloria West. Gloria and Linda had been close for years. When I called, she said, "You finally found Tulsa." I was getting tired of being the last person in every conversation. "Tell me about the star." Gloria sighed. "Linda put it there because of something you told her when Meredith was little." "What?" "You said you never wanted a family where people disappeared without leaving a mark." I remembered saying it. My own mother had died after months of refusing to discuss her illness. I had hated all the things left unsaid. And then I had built the same silence differently. Gloria had one more piece. Before Tulsa, Linda came to her house carrying my gray travel bag. She was unsure whether to go. She thought using your bag was dishonest. Gloria said. It was. Yes. That answer surprised me. Gloria did not excuse her. Linda knew letting Nathan believe I had participated crossed the line. She went anyway because Howard's health was worsening, and Nathan had stopped taking his calls. She thought if she waited for all three Brooks men to become reasonable at the same time, somebody would be dead first. That sounded exactly like Linda. Then Gloria told me why the bag carried my name deliberately. Linda had packed her own identification inside. She could easily have removed my old card from the handle. She chose not to because of something I had said during our argument about Nathan. I remembered the sentence only after Gloria repeated it. "If that boy ever wants to come back, he needs to take one step toward me without his mother carrying him." Linda took me literally. She believed Nathan didn't need to take a step, but she also believed I had made the distance too wide. So she carried my bag to Tulsa, then left it in Nathan's apartment overnight. She told him nothing more would happen unless he chose it. Nathan could return the bag untouched, refuse Howard's call, and send her home. Instead, he called his grandfather. Then he took my screwdriver from a bag and kept it. Then, months later, he wrote to me. The trip had never been designed to make Nathan believe I had forgiven him. It was designed to give him one piece of evidence that I had not erased him completely. Even if the evidence was borrowed, without permission, that was the second truth. I was indirectly the reason Linda went. My demand that Nathan make the first move gave her the shape of the plan. She created a smaller first step, because the one I demanded was too large. And she kept the trip secret afterward, because once I failed to answer Nathan's card, telling me what she had done would turn his effort into humiliation. She protected his dignity. She also protected herself from admitting she had used my name to do it. Love and fear were both in that choice. I could finally see both. Nathan came to Kansas City the following spring. He brought the screwdriver. I brought the luggage tag. We sat at my kitchen table, not the diner in Tulsa. That mattered to me. He placed a screwdriver beside the tag. "You want this back?" I picked it up. The handle fit my hand immediately. "No." "You sure? You kept it longer than I did." He smiled. We talked for 4 hours. Not all of it was about 2007. That would have been another way of letting one bad period own everything. I apologized for humiliating him in Omaha. He admitted he had become careless partly because he wanted to prove he could work without checking with me. Neither confession canceled the other. We talked about Howard too. Nathan said their final conversation was good, but not perfect. My father apologized for putting him between us. Nathan never told him he forgave him. He knew, I said. I hope so. So do I? Meredith joined us for dinner. For the first time in decades, both my children were at my table, without Linda being the person who arranged it. I felt her absence more sharply because of that. The old gray travel bag is back on a shelf in my garage. I cleaned it, but did not replace the patch handle. The dark green thread Linda used is still visible. The airline tag hangs from that repair now instead of sitting in the inner pocket. My full name is faded but readable. Tulsa, Oklahoma, is printed beneath it, and beside, my name is Linda's small blue star. At first, I thought the tag proved she had gone somewhere behind my back. Then I thought it proved she had borrowed my identity to manipulate our son. Now I see something less comfortable and more generous. She took a liberty she should have explained. She also carried a piece of me toward someone I had made too proud to approach. The bag traveled where I refused to go. Nathan took one tool from it. He sent one card back. For years, I noticed neither gesture for what it was. I noticed the star now. It was never an airline mark. It was Linda's way of saying there was something here worth looking at twice. 20 years late, I finally did.